Hey, good afternoon, guys. This is Dr. Rob Kelly, the addiction doctor, along with Jennifer Lovely. This is Recovery Channel podcast, and we're coming live on Facebook and YouTube right now, uploaded in 48 hours to a bunch of podcast sites. So if you have a favorite podcast site, just visit there, put Recovery Channel podcast on, and you will see there's lots of interesting people on there, some famous people, some very clever people. And it's really, really cool to watch. Good afternoon, Jen, for the second time today. How you doing?
I'm doing well. You know what? I know you have a new Peloton. So in between my sessions today with my clients, I jumped on and did the boss ride. So I'm feeling very bossy.
Oh, that's my next ride in about 2 hours. I'll be on doing the boss ride. Yeah, I just can't do the standing up yet. I just can't do it. I had the procedures done, and it's like it's bloated and bruised for the first 4 weeks. So I'm in my second week. So none of my trousers fit me now, and my shirts don't fit me. But I'll be on that Peloton after giving it some. I can tell you that.
Awesome. I'm excited. Well, it's good to be here, and I'm excited, super excited about our guest today because I want to get into a conversation not only about the brain but about resiliency.
Yes, definitely. Absolutely, definitely. Guys, for those of you who don't know yet, although it has been advertised, Leigh Richardson is on. She's the brain person with we're not going to get into it now, but businesses over Dallas or just outside Dallas. And we love that. Just completed a course myself on brain spotting. Just got into brain spotting. Fantastic tool for our toolbox. It's absolutely amazing. So Leigh Richardson, guys, Leigh Richardson. I'll be back after this quick break. Stay with us. Hey guys, welcome back. This is the Recovery Channel podcast. Dr. Rob Kelly here with Jennifer Lovely. Our special guest today is Leigh Richardson. You know we bring you the best guest around. So this is Leigh Richardson. Good afternoon, Leigh. How are you?
I am great. Thanks for having me.
So good to have
Absolutely.
You. So I'm really curious. Can you give me 5 instances in your life that really changed your life? That impacted where you are today?
Absolutely. So I have twin boys that are grown now, but when they were in 2nd grade, one of them got hit by a car and the other one watched. And at the time, I didn't know who I was more worried about, but we went to the emergency room and he'd had a concussion and we got through it. And in 5th grade, he comes to me and he says, I have ADHD. And I said, I don't even know what that is. How can you have something? I'm the mom. I need to know that stuff. And he proceeded to tell me he couldn't pay attention anymore. He couldn't remember things. And so I went to the school and I talked to the counselor, and the counselor said, your kid doesn't have ADHD. Your kid that hadn't failed anything. He's not a behavior problem. Your kid's lazy. I said, okay, well, I still want to help my son. What can I do? And she said, put him on Ritalin. Why would I give my kid speed if there's not a reason? So that was a life-defining moment for sure. I think the second was when my background was human behavior. And what really concerned me was that I was beginning to see a loss in his self-confidence, his self-esteem. I mean, I don't care. You don't have to make A's. But when it starts hitting your self-confidence and your self-esteem, that's pretty scary. So the second point was when I decided I was going to figure out something to do for it. And that's how I landed into neurofeedback. I think a third point was I've been in ICU twice with brain injury. And as a result of the first brain injury, I lost my sense of smell. Well, I put my son in neurofeedback and I thought, well, I'm here, might as well do it too. And I got my sense of smell back. So that was the third thing. And then got board certified, worked for a neurologist for 5 years and decided that I wanted to take a more behavioral health approach. So went back to school, went to grad school, brought the CBT piece in. That's a fourth thing. And then, in 2009, I opened the Brain Performance Center based on a behavioral health model. And I've seen, it's just amazing. Everything you do, everything you don't do, no matter how well you do it, it's all about what's going on in the brain. And every day I get that reinforced, and really on a daily basis, that fifth thing just rolls out because I see such great change. I mean, people, after a gentleman just left, and after this was his third session, he came in, he's like, well, he said, I think I had this question, remember last week, and I wanted to ask you, and I'm like, yeah, but you didn't ask me. It's like, well, I couldn't remember. He said, but I went back and I looked at your website, and he said, you talk about chronic pain. He said, could it be possible that this is helping? I'm like, pain lives in the brain. Of course it could. And he's like, well, I've noticed my pain. That's not what brought him in. But pain is so much better. So every day when I get to hear that, that makes my day.
Awesome. I like that. Very, very good. You just mentioned before about speed. So what's your take? The ADHD medicine that's out there, I have my own opinions on it and have done for a long time. When I was a kid, if you didn't concentrate properly, you got slapped around the back of the neck and be told to get better at school. But I've seen so much devastation. I had a patient once who literally has to wait at least a week, and the pharmacists have run out of Adderall or Vyvanse. So I think it's a problem. I've not really gone into the actual cause and conditions of that. But what's your take on it, Leigh, about, let's say, Adderall and Vyvanse?
Well, I have a natural bias against medication, and I need to throw that out there in the beginning. Medications never work for me. You give me an antibiotic and I get a rash on my face. So it was never going to be my first step. Certainly my kids were on medication. But I think that it's dangerous. I've worked with a young man that was addicted to Adderall.
Oh, God, yeah.
The saddest thing is he had a concussion. And so after that, in order to get him re-engaged, they put him on Adderall, and then he got addicted to it. So I think that it's dangerous. And, I think that it has serious side effects. And I'll be the first to say I am not a doctor. I am not licensed to manage meds. What I am saying is based on my own personal experience and what I've seen in my clinic.
Totally agree with that. Totally agree.
Yeah, I am really curious because I just got off the phone with a client, and what I'm noticing is there's a lot of heartbreak around COVID. Like people just really being in heartbreak around, they can't do these things. We can't do this. We can't get out. We can't be with the people that we want to be with. And isolation and all of these. And what I notice is that as humans, and maybe you can speak onto this, we tend to work on top of our emotions. So if we have a heartbreak, we go and do whatever we have to do rather than attending to our heart or whatever is going on with us. How do you help people deal with like resilience or working past or working through this pandemic that we're in the middle of?
Well, I think we're all grieving. We've lost what's normal and what used to make us comfortable. I'll just go down to the Starbucks and work on my book down there. Can't do that anymore. So we're grieving for everything that we've lost. And what we have to do is we have to shift our focus. This is a true fact. Every day, each of us have 3 times more positive events in our life than negative. That's what research shows. But you know what the brain remembers? The negative. The brain holds on to the negative, and I think that we have to put some positive psychology into our lives and start looking for, I tell all my clients, you're going to have 3 good things happen to you today. Now, are they going to be grand and huge? No, but maybe somebody's going to let you, turn in front of them. That's an act of kindness. Maybe, you're going to get an email that acknowledges you for that little extra something you did. Maybe somebody's going to smile at you on the street. I mean, but you have to be looking for those, because when we get into this kind of like shutdown, and I think for a lot of people, COVID-19 has been a trauma. As for me, shut my business down for 5 weeks. But when you get into a trauma, the way that trauma affects the brain, so you got the left hemisphere, and the left hemisphere, that's where logic is. That's where you pay attention to things, you organize things, you know. And then you got the right side, and that's where the love, the emotion. But you know, the right side of your brain, 2/3 of the cells are scanning, assessing for threats and danger all the time. So the problem is, when you throw that trauma in there, well, the left side can't do its job. It can't organize and put everything in its place. And the right side can't calm the brain down, because the amygdala, that emotional driver, is what we're using to make all of our decisions. And when we react with emotion, are we making the best decision for ourselves and for others? Probably not.
Yeah, we found that a lot. Absolutely. It's amazing how powerful the brain is, but we just don't use it at all. I believe when I came over to America 14 years ago, I was astonished at how many people are on medication. How many doctors and pharmaceutical companies get you tied in? Now, I won't take a headache tablet if I've got a headache. I'd rather know what's causing the headache rather than taking a pill to disguise it. So I was horrified when I saw the devastation and how much of a hold the pharmaceutical companies had. I often tell this story, but I was on national TV. I was talking against Purdue and their attorney, and was in kind of a battle. I like to think I won the battle, but the next day they filed for bankruptcy because I told the truth, that people are devastated. People are losing their life. Families are being broke up. Kids are being put on Adderall and medication like that. Everybody that comes into our business or come for treatment who's been on cocaine started on Adderall. All the guys that are on heroin started with something off the doctor. It all goes back. It used to be the streets. It used to be marijuana. I think them days have gone. If you haven't got the addictive brain, marijuana ain't going to bother you. I know thousands of people, you know, who take it. Not for me, though. But once you start on the medication from the doctor, and everyone says, oh, it's okay, my doctor prescribed it. No, it's not okay as far as I'm concerned, because when the doctor stops prescribing it, and he will, once he starts to see the usage go up and up, then we go to the streets. I just want to know what your take on the actual medical fraternity when it comes to writing prescriptions. Psychiatrists more than doctors have seen?
Well, you know, I think that pharmacology, that is what medical doctors and psychiatrists have been taught, is pharmacology. That's their go-to. You know, medical doctors used to be my biggest challenge because they weren't trained. They didn't know anything about what I did. They thought, oh, that's a bunch of voodoo. No, it's not. There's science behind it. Started back in 1969 at UCLA. I mean, come on. But I think that when your training is just based on pharmacology, I think we have a response. I think everybody has a responsibility to look for more optimal solutions, because what I'm hearing is, you know, medication we used to think worked for everybody. What I'm hearing from doctors and psychiatrists now is they're realizing, doesn't really work for everybody. Sometimes, you know, it causes this side effect or this side effect, and then you got to add more variables in, and it's getting a lot more complicated.
Mm.
Well, it certainly is. And when my son first started using methamphetamine and lots of marijuana for his brain dysfunction, he had a lot of concussions. He had ADHD, but he did biofeedback. And the doctor told him that he could still smoke marijuana. And so we never were able to like really get in there and do the work, right? But I'm really curious, do you believe that if we did more work on our brains and healed the brain, that we would have our lives would be better just in general?
Absolutely. I got my sense of smell back with neurofeedback. Second time I went in ICU with a brain bleed. I came out and I lost some of my smell, but I got some back. But that's when I learned whole brain training, because as I said earlier, everything you do, you don't do, how well you do it, it all depends on how that brain's working. And if you can get that brain into a regulated state, if you can create neuroplasticity is the brain's ability to change. If you can create that and then show the brain what regulation looks like, your overall quality of life improves. Your family's quality of life improves. It's amazing to me. It's all about, we used to think a long time ago, it's all about the power. You don't want to have too much fast wave or too much slow wave. And that's important, but now we know it's more about connectivity. It's more about how the brain shares information and the phase. And, when there's a time when the timing's too fast, you think there's some impulse control issues? Of course. So it's just getting that brain. People say, well, what are you going to do? The first thing I say is, I'm going to calm that brain down. And that's going to make a difference. Yeah.
Every single time. I specialize in neuroplasticity around addiction, and I have done for many years. And when we started having amazing results, we have a 97% success rate of people recovering from alcohol drugs. In fact, we're that confident in what we do is we offer a money back guarantee. The only company in the world in addiction offers you a money back guarantee should you fail or drink or use after leaving us whilst following our program, because it's all about changing neural pathways. I'm an alcoholic. I'm a chronic alcoholic that lost everything. Kids, wives, houses, in England, medical license, everything went. And so I got into studying the brain because I have self-sabotaging neural pathways. My brain wants to kill me and make it look like an accident. And the guy I trained under in England, it was well before his time, Leigh. It was well before his time. But he stepped out the box like we step out the box today and goes, hey, if we can, what we've found is we have self-sabotaging neural pathways, or I do because I'm an alcoholic. And I also need to build self-care neural pathways. And it's a bit like a freeway coming out of a town. That's my normal way out of anything that's bothering me. And I need to start going the side roads to my destination. But the go-to one is always going to be the devastation one for me. And the more we come away from that and the less and less we go to as a knee-jerk reaction to self-sabotaging, the more we can secure the brain. And our findings before the split between addiction and recovery, there's a 7.3 time frame where I can make that decision after I've recovered, not during my disease. 7.3 seconds is what we've timed it to, that I can make a good decision even when I'm suffering from alcoholism and addiction. And that's why we're so guaranteed, because the more we use it, the more it becomes a knee-jerk reaction to not drink or use. It's like driving a car. I can get in my car, I can reverse out the drive, talking to my wife, listening to music, and waving at a friend at the same time. Why? Because them neural pathways have been built in for the last 40 years. Now, if I stop driving, guess what? I'm going to have to concentrate the first time I drive again after a year or so. And it's the same thing with addiction. It has to run down the self-care neural pathways, and the brain has to change. It's not about the drinking, it's about the thinking. That's our motto here. Guys, listen, Leigh Richardson is on the show, guys. It's been amazing. Stick around. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsor. Hey guys, welcome back to the show. This is Recovery Channel Podcast. My name is Dr. Rob Kelly, the addiction doctor, along with Jennifer Lovely. And Leigh Richardson is on the show. She's the CEO and founder of the brainperformancecenter.com, just outside Dallas, I believe, in Texas. So absolutely awesome. We're so glad you're here today, Leigh, with us.
Yes. So I'm really curious, how does, we were talking about COVID, we were talking about resilience. How does one, if they can't get in to do biofeedback or, any of the brain work, if they can't afford it or they don't have insurance, how does one begin to support the brain in a way that it can begin to rewire or, neuroplasticity, reconnect, if you will?
Well, really, we're in control of two of the most important things for our brain. And one is sleep. All day long, those neurons and dendrites are wiring and firing, and they're creating some toxic waste. And the only time these little glial cells, they're like those little scrubbing bubbles, the only time they can come out and clean that up is when you're asleep. So a lot of times the sleep problems that people have is because they don't have a good schedule. I play video games in bed. I watch TV in bed. They don't get up at the same time. They don't go to bed at the same time. So you're in control of your sleep. Nobody can control your sleep better than you. And just, if you don't know what to do, Google guidelines for good sleep. There is so much information out there. So that's something that everybody, and sometimes it's as simple as you've got to change some lifestyle. You've got to make some lifestyle changes. And that's not simple. We all know that. That's very complex. And the second is nutrition. That little brain only weighs 3 pounds, but it's mostly water. It starts with how well hydrated do you keep yourself? I have clients tell me, oh, I drink 4 or 5 cups of coffee every morning. Coffee is dehydrating. That's not, well, it's got water in it. It's not, nutrition. What do you eat? If you're running on sugar and and honestly, I get so many questions about diet. My biggest advice is if you can eat less processed food, just less processed food, that will help your brain, considerably. Those are 2 really basic things, but sometimes we have to think about, ask yourself, am I okay? I'll tell people, do daily check-ins. How you doing today, Leigh? Oh, I'm not doing so good. Well, what do you need? Do you need to get out? Do you need to get some sun on your shoulders? Do you need to do a little exercise? But you have to take responsibility for your mental health. We're all ready to take responsibility for our physical. Oh, my cholesterol's too high, blah, 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 which is important. I'm not minimizing, but take responsibility for your mental health. And it's so easy, particularly this time of year after Thanksgiving. I mean, thankfulness and grateful. What am I grateful for? I ask myself every day to name 3 things I'm grateful for. And there have been days that it's been the same thing for a few days in a row. But that's okay.
Yeah. People think you've got to come up with different things every single day. Well, I said that, because we have a check-in with stuff with our patients, and it's like 3 things you're grateful for. Oh, well, I can't say that because I said it yesterday. No, of course you can. You can say it every single day. Sleep deprivation is the biggest form of torture. It damages the brain more than anything else, as you know, Leigh. So routine for me and our patients is vital. We want you to go to bed at 9 o'clock. We want you to raise at 6 o'clock. And we get our patients into this because little is known by the brain from the every person, including doctors out there, medical doctors. They're just, they're baffled with the disease. They're baffled by the brain. They're baffled with all sorts of stuff around the brain. But I often got told and tell people today, when you go to the supermarket, because they all say, how do you eat, right? When you go to the supermarket, don't shop from the middle. Go on the outsides of the supermarket, round the sides of where all the fruit and veg are and all the new fresh meat and whatever you need to go. Do not buy tins of anything because that is killing you. And you look at, when I came over here, I gained 45 pounds in literally about 8 months. And I went to the doctor and said, what's going on? I said, I have a clean diet. I eat like meats and stuff. And he went, what kind of meat? I don't know, meat from the supermarket. Like went to Walmart. Nope. It's got, you ever heard of steroids? I went, yeah, I used to be on steroids. How big did you get? Oh, I got really big. Was it any good for you? No, it's horrible. That's what the meat's full of. And he went to describe how meat is processed over here and how much damage and weight that will put on you if you start eating the normal stuff. from the center of the supermarket, and it was just horrendous. Like how much we put in our body, the way we treat ourselves, the way we talk to ourselves. Wouldn't talk to our worst enemy sometimes the way I talk to myself. So all this actually adds up to taking control of your body. And when we do that, it's amazing how less we need medication. Because I truly believe that with rest, and this is something Jennifer's really cool at, with, mind, slowing the central nervous system down, meditation, yoga, and all that stuff. Because when my brain's racing, if I can slow my central nervous system down, slow the brain down, everything becomes clearer for me. And I just think if we started doing that as a country, the pharmaceutical companies wouldn't like it, but I think we'd live a lot longer and we'd be a lot healthier and get more out of life. I truly believe that.
I agree with you. In the same speak.
Yeah. Yeah. So getting back to this resiliency, how do we support people out there with traumatized by COVID, and how, what are some things that we can support them with?
Well, my business was shut down for 5 weeks, and I was a little lost, and I thought, resilience, I need to develop my resilience. So I took a mastermind class online, and it had the best analogy, and that was the sailboat. Okay, there's so many things. You want to get this boat out into the water, but there's so many things that can impact it. You can get a leak in the boat. The wind cannot be blowing. There's too much traffic in the harbor, the other boats. And, you have to stop and think of yourself and identify what's around me, what in my environment is supporting me moving forward. And because a lot of times we have things in our environment that are not supporting our movement. And they're comfortable, that the old saying, the devil you know is better than the devil you don't know. Mm-hmm. Because we think that we can manage the devil we know. And so what I always, encourage people to do is stop and think about, identify what's in your environment. And it is okay to not be okay. Mm. And to be able to say, I'm not okay. Who can you go to for support? You have to have a support system. That's the wind. The wind's got to be blowing your way. Mm-hmm. And I think that a lot of resilience is there's a certain amount of pride around people don't want to stay. I'm having a hard time, pushing through it. And there's nothing to be ashamed of. We are coming at it from we are all in this together as a community instead of my world's falling apart. I can't get up. I can't get my job done today. It does all start here with what's going on in the brain. But for some people, where do you resonate? For some people, pray. For some people, listen to music. What resonates with you? For me, get up, get some exercise, get moving. That exercise releases endorphins. Endorphins make you feel good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. It is it is amazing. Really it's amazing how when we have like a trauma to us, and COVID has been a trauma, how we want to just kind of like stop and freeze, right? It becomes like that fight, flight, freeze thing. And we don't want to move because we're scared. And that's what I'm seeing with a lot of people. Thanks. Sorry, Dr. Rob. I just wanted to reiterate that.
Yeah. No, good. I like it. The other thing is self-care for me. Where we used to have offices in the medical building in Highland Park. You'll know this, Leigh. We used to have half a floor over there, and all my staff, there was about 20 staff over there, on a Friday was self-care Friday. And I paid for everyone. We closed the office down at 11 a.m. and I paid for everybody. And they'd make their mind up. This week you're going to have nails done. Next week you're going to have hair done. Want to go to the salon, whatever it may. And the company paid for it, because what we found there is when we looked after them and give them the afternoon off, full pay, and obviously we paid for everything. They come back on Monday and they were ready to go, because we take them away from the primary purpose to work and have the brain, running at a certain level to calm everything down. And they were so grateful. We took our patients out as well Friday, and we do the same there. every staff member took a patient and they'd all go out. And I think it's really, really important that we look for self-care.
I think you're exactly right. And I think, that's kind of made it complicated with COVID because, for a long time, you couldn't go get a manicure. You couldn't get a pedicure. So, Lord, I just wanted to get my hair cut. And so that you couldn't have access to those things. And what I found I'd have to do is just stop and reflect and ask myself, okay, what am I learning from this? What can I learn from this? And I found it got me a little bit more in tune to what my values were, what really mattered. Now, I love manicure, pedicure. I wanted my hair cut so bad, but I couldn't do those things. So what really matters, I had to ask myself, what really matters to you? And what are you doing to help stand truer to those values?
Yeah, for sure. That's huge. I mean, I think that's the one thing for all of us is COVID really forced us to go inside and really look at what, what our values were, but also what do we really, really want? Like, how do we want to spend our time? Who do we want to spend our time with? And one of the things that I've been doing recently, and maybe you can talk about this, but I've been listening to the biofeedback music, the bilateral sounds as I sleep. And I wake up and I have the most intense dreams, but I will tell you, the sleep is deeper than I've ever had in a really, really long time. And that's making a difference in my, just in my life because I feel more alive. And then the other thing that I've added back into my diet after several years is MCT oil, just some organic coconut oil. Can you speak to any of that? Does that resonate?
Certainly the binaural beats, a lot of people have found those to be very, very helpful. Some people find classical music to be, to be equally helpful. I think that, this is what makes it so interesting because what works for one, may not work for the next person. You have to figure out what works for you. And sometimes we have to try so many different flavors that we just say, none of it works. And we walk away instead of, we have to keep trying. But a lot of evidence about coconut oil that you mentioned. And there's so many different products out there. And I think I've tried everything.
Yeah. Well, we have to when we're in this world and we're in this, like the wellness world, we have to try it all. So what are some things that if it doesn't work for one brain, like what do you suggest for people to keep trying? What are some, can you give me like some variations of what people could try?
Absolutely. I think that, starts with knowing yourself. What's worked for you in the past? And what, because a lot of times I'll say something, I used to do that. Why'd you stop? I don't know. So stop and ask yourself, what's worked for you in the past? And that's one door to go in. Another thing is that, and this is good and bad, but do a little bit of research. The bad thing about research is there's so much information out there. So be careful. I say when you do your research, go to Harvard Health, go to Mayo Clinic, go to the Cleveland Clinic, go to Stanford, go to Duke. There's so much good information out there. Don't go to some user group, or something that you've got to vet your information that you take in. So I encourage people.
Brain Performance Center.
Absolutely. Thank you. Because we do. There's a lot of information on our website. There's a lot of information on LinkedIn and Instagram and Facebook. Thank you. But good think because you've got to get good information. Yeah. And I think the other thing that I encourage people to do is, get an accountability partner. And sometimes it's a two-way street. I really need you to help me. And it's nobody can do it for you. I'm not implying that. You've got to do it. But sometimes just knowing somebody's going to ask me, Leigh, did you do that? Oh, I'm going to do it because I know they're going to ask me.
Yeah.
Always gonna do it. Always like, I'm going to do it. What we do, and this is awesome, is something I come up with from years ago, is we get them to write, keep a journal and write down every day what you want to do. So it might be breakfast, it might be go for a run, lunch, meet Jennifer and Rob, do this. So they've got 6 things on the list. The first day you don't cross all 6 off, that's your relapse. That's where, because the relapse never comes at the actual beer or drug. That's your relapse, because you're falling out of what you said you would do and you're failing. And when we keep them to that strict routine every single day, the central nervous system and the brain starts to get used to that. Because I used to always be running around, Leigh. I'd be doing something and someone would call, Rob, can you come around straight? Yeah, I'll give me 10 minutes. I'll be around there. And my addiction loves all this action in the brain. But as soon as I start to pause and slow everything down, then life becomes easier. So Jennifer, I'll smile at this. If you're not on my calendar today, you ain't seeing me and you ain't speaking to me, because that's how I live. I live 24 hours at a time due to my disease. I keep it manageable and I try and stay calm. And that's why how me and Jennifer got together, is the aura from her, what she teaches, the experience that she brings with the family. That's the kind of person I was attracted to, because you get a lot of people running around and it's just no good for the body or the brain at the end of the day, and that's where we get into sleep deprivation. Tell us about your book, Leigh. What's the book? The book called Turn Your Brain On to Get Your Game On. I love that title, by the way.
Thank you. So I wrote this book because my practice is, before I work with anybody, I do a 30-minute complimentary consultation. And, people would come in and I would see they're kind of looking at the floor, and I'm listening to them. I say, sounds like you got a little depression going on. Oh, no. Okay, Or, I'd see the shoulders come up and be earrings. And I'm like, relax. Looks like you got a little anxiety going on. Oh, no. And I realized that people, they're embarrassed. They're ashamed. That they don't think it's okay to not be okay. And that is why I wrote the book, Turn Your Brain On to Get Your Game On. Because it is okay to not be okay. And everybody, honestly believe, everybody at some point in your life, your brain is going to get dysregulated. Because there's 4 things that puts the brain in a dysregulated states: genetics, physical trauma. Anytime you hit your head, you change the way those neurons and dendrites are wired and firing. Emotional trauma and stress. And if you're living life, you're going to have some emotional trauma. And if you've been alive in 2020, you're going to have some stress. And so I just wrote the book to kind of talk about it and put it out there and talk about what you can do about it. And it's kind of a little bit about everything. But talk about sleep, talk about lifestyle choices, because a lot of times, it's not what I do. It's what's going on around me. Well, who's in charge? Who's in charge? Talk about the importance of, good sleep, good nutrition.
Yeah, it's what you're saying speaks to the work that I do in the world, which is, codependency is chronic self-neglect.
Yeah.
And so we spend a lot of time out there in the world focused on everybody else, thinking that everybody else around us is actually controlling us. We actually can take charge of our lives and what we want to see, what we want to do, how we want to do it. I really love, and you're a woman after my own heart, because my children changed my life, where my life trajectory was and where it was going based on their addictions. And your sons, that sounds like, changed your lives and where you were going based on what they had going on in their life, which is just such a badass thing, right? Our children really affect us. So talk to me about how your children are doing today and how their lives have changed because of their mom's work.
Well, they both have been huge supporters. So, once we got through the one that was hit by a car, and he graduated from the University of Denver, has gone on, he's, really, really made a difference in him. So the second one, when he was in college, he was in 3 different bands. And he would get a little nervous before he would go on stage. Once he was on stage, He was fine. And he was at UNT. And I said, well, you know, just happen to know there's this lab called the biofeedback lab at UNT. I said, go do some neurofeedback. I don't want you to do it with me. I'm your mom. I don't want to be your therapist, but just go do it. And he did. And it made a difference in his life. So my poor husband, everybody in the family's done it. Because I honestly believe, and I've seen how to calm that brain down. You sleep better. You know, life just gets easier in general. But certainly, nothing is more motivating than when it's your kid. I mean, when your kid comes to you and says, Mom, I need you to help me. And you're like, oh, sure, I can do that. You know, and then, well, I have ADHD. Well, I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
And then somebody's, you know, says, well, do this. And that's not one of my values. That's not what I believe in. And certainly I would do it, but it would never, medication would never be my first or my only solution for a mental health issue.
Awesome. I love that. I'll run out of time, unfortunately. What I want to say is, if you want to change your life, guys, change your brain. If you want to succeed in life, change the brain. It's all about the way you think. If you can visualize something, I'm living proof. From living on the streets to one of the best minds in the modern addiction world, is what they call me, which my ego loves. But the thing is, I visualize something as a chronic alcoholic who'd lost everything living on the streets to this point now. If you can visualize it, you can hold it. So visit the website, thebrainperformancecenter.com. I just want to thank you so much, Leigh. So much information there. Just awesome. I've got to order the book now. That's the only thing. I'm going to definitely order the book. Thank you, first of all, for coming on the show. Thank you for sharing all the stuff you did. And thank you for being you. Thank you for being out there and having the guts to walk out, create the company, help people better understand that if we high perform the brain, everything else changes in life. I've just completed a course on brain spotting. And it's beautiful what they say is what we see is how we feel. And I like that because it's so true. And anything to do with the brain, I'm always trying to update. I'm always trying to learn because I think the more we learn about it, the more we can manage our own life and redirect these neural pathways that are killing us. So for me, thank you so much, Leigh. And I'll leave it to Jennifer to take you out.
Yeah. So thank you, Leigh. And I really am curious, what do you want to leave people with so that they can get through the next month of 2020 and into 2021?
Hope, you know, and you have to hope. People need three things. I'm going to leave you with this.
Okay.
They need three things. They need something to do, something to love, and they need something to look forward to.
I love that so much. Thank you so much. You are such a light in the world, and I just know that you have given so much hope and love and light to people. So thank you so much. It was lovely to meet you. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Guys, awesome, guys. This is a Recovery Channel podcast. That was Leigh Richardson. Don't forget to visit the website. Absolutely awesome. This will be uploaded later, so there's lots more to hear and see later on different podcasts upload. But for now, thank you so much, Leigh, and we'll be back after this.
Thank you.
Welcome back, guys. Awesome show. Awesome show. Absolutely. I love that to bits. Leigh Richardson was on the show. The Brain Performance Center just in Dallas there, Texas, my hometown for 12 years. What do you think of that, Jen?
I love it. I want to go and I want to have my brain maneuvered and changed and all of that. I mean, it's like as much as we do, as much as I do, as much as I, do all of the right, quote unquote, right things, I still feel like there's so much more that I could unleash in my brain and capture to even create, more beauty in the world.
Yeah, definitely. A little fact known by nobody apart from me and Janet. Now the freaking world's going to know. I actually went for TMS about 7 years ago. And it was something like a 3-month course. It was every single day. And then it became every other day. and it changed my life. It really did, you know, because I started to jump in that depression and that self-doubt the way we all do. And yeah, it really made a difference to me.
Yeah, no, I mean, I totally believe it. We all have it, but I mean, to think like, oh, that our brain, this computer up here, has so much power and control over what and how we live our life. It's amazing.
Yeah, the brain is just like a computer. What we put in, we get out. Shit in, shit out. Good stuff in, good stuff out. We can redevelop and we can see and we can move. It's like we always give the analogy of a basketball court when people come to us and they go, I've got no future, I don't know what to do. It's like, think of a basketball court. Okay. Now, if you're thinking that you can be up to 25 places at the same time, because that's what the science people tell us, then where would you like to be? And you go, oh, well, I obviously want to be near the goal. And what when you do when you get the ball, I'll pop it in the goal and the hero of the game. Correct. Can you see that position? Yeah. What do we do now? Walk over and take that position. You've already visualized it. It's easy. You know, just walk over and take it. And the more we know about the brain and the more we know that that's actually possible, it's not just a myth, I think the better lives get. Awesome, awesome, awesome show. Guys, thank you so much for watching and so much for listening today. We want to thank you. We want to thank our guests. We want to thank our listeners and followers and viewers. And from me, I'll say bye-bye, guys, and I'll see you during the week. We'll be back. So thanks, guys.
See you guys soon. Wednesday, I think we see you. So look forward to that. Have an awesome, awesome Monday.
And don't forget, guys, that we'll probably do a special on Friday because me and Jen are going to meet the first time. Jen's coming over to the house. We have a special room in the trailer for her where she can sleep. And we may do a show together. You never know. So stick around. Stick to Facebook. I
don't think that's good for my brain to sleep in the trailer.
Yeah, me neither. Thanks, guys.
Bye.